It's the Sod Pod. Brought to you by Grassland Agro. The Sod Pod. Hello, and welcome to the Sod Pod. This is episode 17. The Two Johnnies caught up. That's John Maher from Teagasc and our own John O'Loughlin. They were down in Moorepark. They've had a good chat about Grass 10. Not much catfishing, chicken rolls or junior B hurling, but it's all about all the entries into the Grass 10 and the winners. Have a listen.
John Maher, Teagasc Grass 10, we've a good bit to chat about. We may as well start with the hurling. So you wanted to come on to congratulate Claire especially.
As I said, John, we have a lot to talk about, so we'll move on.
Keep it short and sweet. You turned off the speaker on me at one of the events recently when I was getting into this. So,
but you were too long, John, speaking.
Yeah, well, that's always the case, isn't it? John, we have a good bit to get through, I suppose. We're talking about the events. We've had some fantastic events and really good turnout so far, and there's more to come, but we might just talk about some of the finalists from the 2023 competition for the Sustainable Grassland Farmer of the Year.
Yeah, sure. Look, John, we're kind of halfway in those events. We started off earlier in the year with Patrick O'Neill and Longford, the overall winner, in what has been a difficult spring. But anyway, look, the event went very, very well. It's great to have someone in Longford winning it, John. We haven't had winners up that neck of the woods in a while, so it was good to have events in that part of the country, I think. To be fair,
definitely, yeah. I think himself and Farmer Phil are the two most famous farmers in Ireland now, so different levels of grassland management maybe, John.
Yeah, fair enough. But look, when we speak about grassland management, look, the reason Patrick won was he was very good at everything and that the competition had to assess.
John. He was an all-rounder, wasn't he, John?
Absolutely, very good at all of it. Whereas clover, grassland, nutrient management,
slurry
sustainability, slurry management, all of it. He had the whole package.
Yeah. And listen, I felt when we were on that farm, the clover was outstanding.
Yeah, for the location at the time of year, he had put a lot of effort into it. His understanding of clover was probably the best in the competition, John. I think that's what helped him get over the line as well.
Early adopter, wasn't he?
Very much so. Part of the Clover 150 programme as well. Had started out on this journey. Oh God, John, go back to 2018. Yeah. So he had saw the writing on the wall in terms of where, nitrogen fertilizer was going to go in terms of use, and what was coming down the tracks, and went down this road. So and has very good clover on the farm in what is a northern latitude and is not the most straightforward land type now.
Yeah, well, we argued about that on the day as well, John.
We certainly did. There's parts heavy, parts dry. I admit.
Yeah,
that.
I would have considered that there is parts, maybe bottoms, like bits of fields, but in general, I thought it was fairly good ground now. To be fair, but
I think that's reasonable, John. Yes.
Yeah, but like, listen, it was the job that he was doing with it, John, wasn't it?
Completely, and his approach to it, the effort he puts in, like. Simple things done very, very well. Many people will argue it's hard enough to establish clover, but I suppose, John, he made it look easy, to be fair. No, he just followed the rules and knew what he had to do, when he had to do it, and that made a difference.
Yeah, and really, his event then on the day, I thought he gave a really good overview of the farm, really articulated it well, and especially, I suppose, it was early on in the time and the weather was still bad and it was a breath of fresh air nearly, John, wasn't it? Because he acknowledged the challenges we faced, but also was still sticking with the clover and the whole lot.
He had challenges like everybody else, John. He's a good grassland manager, but like many people, when it came to the month of April, silage was scarce, to put it mildly. Yeah. So at least things have improved since the spring, albeit, it has been a difficult year, John,
Yeah, no, it was top class. And then Patrick was the overall winner, but we also had different categories then as well, John.
Yeah, so we had the next event then with Michael Carroll in Limerick, who was the nutrient management category winner. I suppose, Michael's attention to detail in terms of the nutrient management, the paddocks, the grass varieties, cow performance. It was very good now, to be fair.
Yeah, top class. So Michael is in
brewery in Limerick.
Yeah, and I would have considered that very dry from passing on the main road, you see tillage and stuff like that, but there was actually parts of the farm that were fairly wet, John, as well.
Oh yeah, and like everybody else, Michael had a difficult spring, but the one thing about Michael, he's a resilient fella and gets on with it, knows what he has to do, knows all the targets pretty well now, to be fair, and what has to be achieved. So yeah, it was parts of the farm, are a little bit on the heavier side. There's no denying that. Michael would outline that. Like everything in the spring, John, he started with the best ground, and then as time moved on, he had to move into the more, difficult soil types on the farm, but has the skill set to manage that. That's what would impress you, and in terms of, and it's no different for Michael than all the rest of the farms. Their ability to graze, John, is
and
top,
he had
top class.
The infrastructure out there was
Completely,
very good.
Yeah, fabulous network of roadways, gapways, but like Michael's approach to getting on and getting off in terms of grazing, trying to minimise damage to the ground, understands the principles of how that works, and does it very well.
He was wrong about one thing, John. He bet me €100 that Limerick were going to do the 5. So listen, I think
we're short of time in this conversation, John. Are we?
Who are we on to next, John?
We're on to next. Billy Gilmore, which was our dry stock category winner. Now, John, we had one hell of an event this week on that farm.
Outstanding.
Yeah, we got probably lucky with the night, lucky with the weather, and lucky to have Billy, and he did a wonderful job on the night. He's contract rearing for 5 farmers, dairy replacements, has a lot of fragmented land, different farmlets. But every farm we went to in the competition, and including the other night, John, like the grass is just superb.
Outstanding.
Probably the best we've seen all year, to be fair.
Outstanding.
And his attention, the way his cover management and the way he going into the right grass all the time. I think that's, if you were to sum up Billy, that would be for me, just going into the right grass all the time. Again, super clover as well. In fairness, John, the other night, I couldn't get over. Probably the best clover we saw all year as well, to be honest. So good now.
Top class.
Yeah.
The clover was outstanding. There's lots of clips floating around on social media, John, and the pictures probably don't do justice. Myself and Ed and Joe, we walked down through that field where you done your party piece, and it was top class, like, wasn't it? It was remarkable. Like, and we're in Moorepark here today recording that, and you probably do well to find it.
Well, you wouldn't, John.
Yeah, do you know, like, it was exceptional.
And I suppose your thing, John, for like Billy has the different farmlets and all that, and that's fine, but he runs the same principle in all of them.
Yeah,
there's not different, and for anybody who's interested in that and want to do a good job at grass, what he did was very simple and very repeatable.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Billy, I was chatting to him at the award ceremony. Like, he's years of it, John. Like, he's probably forgotten more than I'd ever know about grass. Like, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Actually, he brought us back to 1984, John, which is 50 years ago when he won his first Grassland Awards. So, anyway. But he'd also tell you, he never stopped learning. So
yeah, and he said it was the same principles, like the lime, the P&K. That was the first statement I think he made. He welcomed everyone.
Yep.
He said thanks very much for coming, and then he said it's the same stuff. Graze for 3 days and all that. Those kind of standard statements that we see. I think the team up there and John Kilboyle as well and all did a brilliant job as well. John,
phenomenal.
The event was standout, wasn't it?
It was. It's one of those that we'll never forget, John.
Yeah, it was great to be a part of it.
All credit to the team of people involved, be it the Grass 10 team, be it the unit in Galway with Pat Clark, but a special effort by John Kilboyle was phenomenal. As the advisor to the firm. Now, Billy recognised all the advisors involved in the past, and they have made a contribution to his success. But in fairness to John, was fabulous on the night. Yes.
Yeah. No, it was brilliant. I think it was great to have it, and I suppose we're not done yet as well, John.
No, we're only halfway. It's half time, John.
Yeah.
A lot can happen in the second half, as you well know. So, but I suppose, John, just we kind of take it for granted. You were doing the nutrient management category judging in each farm, and we should recognise, though, John, that all the farms, they all had good soil fertility now, to be fair to them. Yeah. And we shouldn't forget that. We kind of take it for granted.
Yeah.
Like, the national stats don't support what we see in these farms, but their soil fertility was all very, very good.
Soil fertility excellent. I'd say the lime is kind of nearly taken for granted on these exceptional performing farms, but everyone else has a bit of work to do on it. Do you know? The phosphorus, I know everyone is petrified about it at the moment, especially this year with the register and allowances, but it's not possible to do what the winners are doing unless you have decided fertility. You won't have the clover, as you said on the day, John.
Yeah. If you want to keep growing grass, and when grass comes under pressure, it needs those nutrients, especially phosphorus. And whatever about grass needing them, the grass will probably survive if we're short of nutrient, but the clover will not survive if we don't have those lime P's and K's right.
No, it's cooked, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
So it's that's why when you go like to Billy's farm the other night and see the clover, and he tells you the indexes in the fields are all very, very good. You know, as I say, seeing is believing.
Yeah, even myself and Ed were doing a bit. We were the second stop, and it was the urea with NBPT, the MOP, the tanker, and Ed actually dug a hole, John. But like Billy was standing up beside me, and the ground that in the field that we were in, he told me that from where we were out to the pub, he'd spent 25,000 reclaiming it, and it was still exceptional. Like, you know, most people when they do that sort of reclamation work, they kind of allow themselves maybe a little bit of leeway to build up the soil fertility, but no, it was on the ball straight away.
I think the best compliment I could say, John, is you would know it was reclaimed.
Yeah, it was unbelievable now, to be fair, and like it was really top class. The infrastructure was really good, and it was simple. It wasn't like a dairy farm where you have roads everywhere, but it was very functional, wasn't it?
Absolutely, but I suppose, John, like, just cuts the chase here. Like, Clare might have won the All-Ireland, John, but you were in Galway the other night and you'd eat humble pie in terms of grazing performance.
Oh yeah, big time, big time, big time. Oh, I'll openly admit that now, and yeah, we managed to have a bit of crack about with the Galway lads as well. So we were in Galway, which was I had to be reminded of anyways. But no, it was a super event, John. I think we were all buzzing after it, and well done to everyone. We have more to come, and one of the ones that I was really, really excited about is up next.
Yes, Cillian Brennan and Cavan, and he did very well in your category, John, as you know. So,
very well.
In Kilcogie and Cavan, and like, you know, there's parts of that farm on the heavier side as well now, John.
Yeah, Liz will testify to that anyway.
Yeah, we better move on, John.
Our missing Weddy will be found on the day. There's a treasure hunt for it, is there?
But phenomenally well set up farm, tight enough platform, as you know. And Distin brought in the other piece, which was very impressive on the farm, which is the red clover on the out farm. Yeah. Making a great job of it. But again, the understanding of how to get the best out of red clover, the nutrient management, the soil fertility, the slurry management in particular.
The bravery.
Yes. Probably the best we've probably seen for a long, long time, John.
Because I suppose, so the farm story is very interesting. We won't spoil it for everyone, but Cillian is very open and honest about it. What I was very impressed with was obviously the grass, but his facilities, the attention to detail, animal welfare, cow comfort, all these things, top priorities for him personally. When we went over to the out farm, not that far away, maybe 2 miles, John.
Yeah.
And you're going in the lane, and you know it is kind of fairly maybe rough, I suppose. Dry stock grazing ground, maybe set stocking on your right hand side as you go up the lane. On the left, basically, how big an area is it? 30 acres?
It was 20-30 acres, yeah, around that. Yeah.
The whole lot of it into a red clover sward.
Yeah,
and not on simple ground, like.
No, but from head to toe, excellent. You know, from the top to the bottom, all very well
And
done.
We were there, and the weather conditions were like the ground conditions were very
tough.
poor.
Yeah.
And he was just after baling it maybe a week before that.
Just the opportunist. Yep. But doing the right things at the right time, John.
Yeah, but even the bravery to I suppose trust the science that's coming out of here in Moorepark in Grange and all the good work that's been done by Nicky and Peter, and saying, listen, I'm going for it, was very impressive.
Yeah, and sure, God, John, the way the spring worked out since, wasn't he glad to have it?
Oh, big time. Time. So, John, that event is actually coming up next week on Wednesday, the 4th of September.
Yep.
11 a.m. kickoff.
Yes, so great opportunity to visit Cillian's farm. He's also done well in other competitions as well, John, as you know, but great to be on the farm to see superb performance. You know, it's not just the grazing piece, it's the cow piece, it's the nutrient management piece, it's all that put together. The jigsaw's very well put together, and it's impressive. It's impressive.
Yeah, brilliant, John. And then after Cillian, we're going to another really remarkable farm, which is the organic category winner, Kevin O'Hanlon.
Yeah, down in near New Ross. To be honest, John, his approach of using grass, like one of the challenges with organic dairying is the protein source, right? So this is unusual in that the way that Kevin approaches is he tries to get grass in every day in the diet of the animal. He supplies milk to Teagasc, so it's a year-round requirement. He doesn't get all 365 days of grazing, but his thought process on it, like things like the 120-day rotation, to get just some I call live protein in, if that makes sense, into the diet, just to
Good
help
description,
to help the whole performance. So the fact that he's willing to do that, he puts the plan in place, he has the infrastructure to do it. They're all the I suppose impressive pieces, but the real impressive piece, John, is to make it work. Yes, and like, while we know last spring was difficult and last winter was difficult, most days he was able to make this work, and I think that's what swung us in terms of the impressive nature of the project on the farm. You have other challenges as well then in terms of nutrient management, nutrient recycling. Kevin has a nice bit of multi-species, grass, clover, swards. Makes it work very, very well now.
Very well.
Yeah.
I think it's although it's an organic farm walk, I think every farmer should go if they can do, just to see something different, but also the potential of clover, obviously, and the multi-species. I know, we still think that they have a place that we do think they have a place to play. Maybe not going to be everywhere, but use them to good effect, trying different things for winter and dry cows on stubble turnips and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's
on the out farm. I suppose the home farm produces the milk production, which is where most of our focus is on. But Kevin will explain all that now. He's come from conventional into organic. He's brought some of the grazing principles from that into organic, but then he's modified them to make the system work. To have an objective of having grass in the diet every day is a fair objective. Now, I accept the farm is reasonably dry.
Yeah, it's very dry.
It's Ballywilliam, but near New Ross. But still, his approach, the processes involved, it's impressive.
Oh, it was outstanding. Now, to be fair, and the next one on the list then.
Yeah, it's our last hurrah at the end of September. Kevin's is on the 11th of September in near New Ross and Ballywilliam. That's a Wednesday. And then we go to Evan Hunt, who's the young category winner of the Sustainable Grassland Farm of the Year. This is a category that we've tried to, use, John, to look after the next generation coming into farming, 100%. And in particular to do the grassland piece. And like, while the Irish, production systems of agriculture that are involved in livestock are heavily focused around grass, has unusual challenges. While it is low cost, it gives us our green image, it gives us a marketing advantage. It's environmentally probably top of the class, but grass being grass, it does change, as I say, every day, every week, every month, every season, every year. You're dealing with those factors of change, and you have to have the skill set then and the ability to manage that. Variation is probably the word I'll come with, right? In trying to manage grass, yes. But the tools are there. It's just a matter of having the right attitude and being flexible, I would think.
Definitely, I think everyone in the West, if there was one to go to, that'll be a brilliant day. That farm is it has its challenges in relation to soil type as well, but the job that himself and his father are doing there is top class.
So the clover is very impressive. The farm is based in Sligo. Evan is our young category winner, so we've been trying to encourage as many of the people who are of the younger vintage to come to that farm and see how
make a day out of it.
Yeah, and he's made great progress.
Serious progress, and a brilliant speaker as well. So I suppose, John, then that was the 2023 competition. Entries are open for 2024.
Yeah, so obviously this competition is continues, John. We're into we're about the 7th or 8th year of it, and I suppose, John, the competition is open. We'll have entries coming in as it stands through August, John, and into September. I suppose it's a chance for people to see where they're at in terms of grazing. People will have concerns that 2024 is a difficult year, John, but as a judge like myself, we don't focus on 1 year. This is a multi-year approach. It's not just about grass production. The year 2024 is much broader than that.
Yeah.
Incorporates aspects of nutrient management, sustainability, health and safety, reseeding, clover management, grazing infrastructure. It's a whole package, and this is not done in just 1 year. So people should, if people are worried about 2024, they shouldn't be. It's also other pieces of the jigsaw, and it's also multi-year. Like we look at 23, 22, 21 data as well, John. So that's that. I suppose what's up for grabs then, John, is the aim of the competition is to recognise those who do a very, very good job. We've mentioned all the previous winners. They're our ambassadors for grazing, John. I suppose that's what we're about. And I suppose let's be clear, John. There's 5,000 euros up for grabs, right? The winner gets 10,000 euros. So each category winner is 5,000. Winner gets 10,000. Do you know, John? It's tax-free prize in a difficult year. €5,000 is a nice bit of money. So it would cover a family holiday, as they say.
That's for sure, yeah. And I suppose it's a great opportunity to challenge yourself and turn something into positive. I think the biggest thing for me, John, as well as the prize money, is that it gives. I like to think that we give these farms the opportunity to be ambassadors for their enterprises, and there's an awful lot of angst and maybe upset about the way that agriculture is portrayed, and I think we just help to support them to tell their story, and ultimately when they're good at grass, they're good at on the sustainability side and the environmental side, and I think that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, it kind of gets a bit lost in it, John. That's why it's called the Sustainable Grassland Farmer of the Year. Like, all these farmers have fabulous carbon footprints. Yes, the nutrient use efficiency figures. When you graze the right grass, John, the methane emissions go down. People forget the basics. If you're chewing something that's a bit fibrous, John, the methane emissions go up. So if you do graze the right grass, you're already winning. And the principle of grass or grazing is this, John. Like, when the animals are out in the field, they're feeding themselves and spreading their own slurry. Yeah. When they're inside the yard, you're feeding the animal and you're spreading the slurry. Now, no matter which way you twist or turn that, environmentally, when you're doing the work, it can't be a win for the environment. No,
so it's definitely worth anyone who would have an interest in getting onto their advisor and applying. You don't have to be a Teagasc client.
No, John, no. It's the competition application form. You can pick it up through the Grass 10 newsletter that's issued every week, but it's on the website, John. Go into Grass 10, you'll see the competition, and it's online. So we've had category winners and who haven't been Teagasc clients, John. So it's not about Teagasc. It's about about grass and grazing, John. Yeah. And
the big thing, John, is, I think you touched on it there, is that don't be worried about this year.
No.
Like, everyone knows how tricky this year was.
Yeah, we've had this before, John, in 2018.
Yeah.
So
as recently as that.
It's not. This is not about 1 year or one part of the game, John. It's sometimes we go to extra time, John, as you well know, and still win.
Yeah, rightfully.
I don't think the Cork grouping would agree to there, John, but we'll move on.
Sure, listen, they're getting over it anyways. But we will move on, John, because I suppose it has been a very tough year, and I suppose we have to acknowledge that, and we have to come up with a plan. And we faced tough years recently as well, John.
Yeah, if we go back through the last 15 years, John, like there's been 2009, 2012 into 13, 2018, last autumn wasn't hectic, 2022 wasn't hectic, but, last autumn into this spring has been difficult, John, and it has left its mark into 2024 with the excessive rainfall,
big hangover.
Damage to ground. Yeah, it's a hangover, John, and we're here in August, and the hangover is still there, so it hasn't gone away. The only thing I would say is, you'd be a little bit more optimistic about the autumn. The weather seems to be turning a little bit more in our favour. Finally, I would hope for certain parts of the country now, you just have to be clear about that. Like, if you take many parts of the south, the ground is very, very dry, and growth has been poor mainly because of lack of moisture. And then we've also mentioned the difficult year. But then if you go up to where we were last week, John, like, they've had excessive rainfall now in August.
Huge amount of rainfall, and
that's brought its own challenges. Like for what I would call northwest, western parts of the country, and or as our colleague calls it, the borders, the Midlands and the West. They've had a lot of rain now, and that's brought its own challenges. And there's animals housed, so the challenges are different in that one place has challenges with excessive rainfall, and you go to the south, John, and it's not enough rainfall. So they both bring grazing challenges, though. But when we say that, then, John, it's all about that plan going into the autumn, trying to make the most of grass.
Yes.
Irrespective of which way you turn this, John, like, fodder stocks are tight. And
they are tight, John,
our last assessment said they were tight. They can't have improved since, either because of too much rain in the north or too dry in the south. Like, there's lots of people in the south feeding silage, John, and it's eaten into their fodder reserve after a difficult winter, a difficult spring. So, we have to make the best of what we can out of grass in the autumn and keep the season as long as we can to shorten the winter period. That's important. So you have to put the things in place then to make sure that remains the focus for the next 2 months. Like, we still have September and October to go. If we can get into November, it would be great, John. But that doesn't happen without effort.
No, and it takes a big effort, John, and you're right. And it's so tricky. I think the fodder one is obviously a major concern. The second cuts have been average, I suppose, would be the best.
That's a reasonable statement, John, and you might even be a tad generous.
Yeah, they have been average now, to be honest, and we were relying on a decent second cut. All the data was showing us that we were 10% behind where we needed to be. So we probably are in a spot of bother, and it'll be very interesting to see the findings from the Fodder Security Committee whenever that may be. And I know some people are going for a third cut.
They are, John. There's a renewed interest in it for obvious reasons.
Yeah, but a lot of it on the dry ground has been grazed, John.
Of course.
Do you know?
Yeah,
and on the wet ground, like on Billy's farm, sure, he housed the heifers the night before expecting 20 mil of rain, real dry limestone ground, and there was water line in corners. I know there were hollows but whatever, but there was still a bit of a squeaky underfoot, like.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much more rainfall to turn things in the wrong direction, John, to be honest.
And I suppose that's one thing, John, because for those people in the west of Ireland, having your infrastructure, that's fair enough, but if you don't have it in place now, it's very hard to get it in place overnight.
It is.
So like it's coming up with a plan there now to try and protect grass as much as possible. And like, what do they need to be thinking about?
Well, if we took one of the messages from the other night, John, if you remember, Billy was asked how many reels he had.
Yeah.
Right. So 20 reels, if I remember correctly, or 19.
Yeah, I think to a full 20, rounded off.
Well, rounded off, right. So that's it. You mightn't have all infrastructure in place on all parts of the farm. Generally, the infrastructure around the farmyard is fairly good, John, but when you get out the fields, things can get, especially into silage ground, things can get tricky. But like, if you go back to Billy, our most recent event and category winner, like, he puts a lot of effort into on-off grazing, going into the right paddock at the right time. So being in, the best place on the farm when the weather is wrong, not the big open paddock that has tricky parts in it that would make it prone to poaching and all that kind of stuff. So, it's making use of strip grazing in the right paddock, in the right cover of grass. All those things make a difference. Like, if you go into a big cover of grass, John, on a wet night, you're going to walk a lot of into the ground. So the idea is to give them more area, much lower cover of grass. If the grass is left behind, it holds its quality because the cover is low, and you move on the next day. Like, Billy was, I suppose, the perfect advocate of that. The other thing as well, John, is like, when you do the grazing piece, is that that it's as square as possible, right? Yeah. If you do long, narrow, the animals up, down, and they destroy the place. So, I suppose the other thing that caught me the other night, then, that Michael Donoghue made mention to the position of the water trucks. They were central, so that he could do his wires off this central water truck not down by the gate.
Yeah.
And and the animals at the far end. Just those things make a difference. Now, saying that, there's ways around it if you approach this right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the being dynamic and using the reels and stripping is going to be very important for the lads on the heavier ground. And then if we maybe flip down on that kind of, I suppose, is it fair to say maybe even as from Clare across to Dublin and the whole way down seems to be quite dry?
Yes, the rainfall is well below average for the last while. That northerly influence of that wind, or I don't know, that cooler wind has taken its toll between, having its effect on grass growth, but also its drying effect,
Yeah,
and,
big time.
we know some of the soil moisture deficits, I suppose, John, if I go to Adair back to Skeeton's probably the worst I've come across. They've been struggling for a long, long time now with dryness, which is a strange thing to say. But look, this is really about trying to take opportunity now of grass growth in September. It's funny to say this, John, but September for the last 2 years has been the highest production month.
Yeah.
Is
is part of that because we have typically a higher average farm cover, so we can.
But it is part of it, yes.
But that's part of the plan, John.
Yeah, that is. You're trying to do is your build cover during August to peak in September, and then trying to keep pushing that out into October and into early November if you can. Now, it takes a bit of planning and organising. We have about 3 weeks left, John, before you go by standard days of reduction in growth rate or standard approaches to growth. Sometimes the end of September can be as good as the start of September. But if we just go by norms, John, 3 weeks. So we have to do everything we can to put as much grass on the farm in the next 3 weeks, whether that's more land coming in from silage ground, reseeded ground, whether it's spraying a bit of fertiliser, John, to extend the back end, whether it's putting in feed to try and get the cover up. All those things matter. But if you don't act, John, or put a plan in place, you won't have the grass, and the grazing season will be shorter. In the south, John, that would be a difficult pill to swallow, that you could actually have grazed, the ground underneath you be dry, and you have no grass, and you end up going in. That wouldn't be where we'd need to be now. That
would add insult to injury, to be fair.
It would, John. It's losing the game. With the jaws in I suppose you're losing the game when there's success to be had, if that makes sense. So,
Robbie O'Flynn.
John, take it easy, will you? We'll upset some people by saying that. But I suppose, John, like the first basic thing for those on, is to extend the rotation, John. And to be honest, from irrespective of whether you're cattle or sheep, John, it has to be minimum 30 days in September. Minimum.
Yeah.
Right? And for some, the hole is so deep they won't get to where we want them to be, but they have to strive to get to as far as we can be. And if you wanted a very simple plan, John, you do the 30-day rotation for September and do a 30-day rotation for October, and you wouldn't be too far off the mark now.
Lovely.
Yeah. But I suppose, John, what we see in parts of the south is that some paddocks are not growing, John, and people are putting in the feed. But those non-growing paddocks, they need to be grazed, John, to get new cover coming.
Yeah. The
rain might come, they might start doing a small bit, but you need the fresh regrowth to kick on. The fertilizer.
To be reset.
The fertilizer out or the salt water out to make them grow. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I suppose what people do have control of is the nutrients more than the weather. So I suppose a lot of questions I'm recommending depending, but no one seems to be have abundant amounts of grass. But I'm recommending going with between 25 and 30 units if you have an allowance.
Absolutely. And John, most people do have the allowance.
They do, yeah.
Because the year has been difficult.
I mean, it's nearly 2 rounds at the start.
Yeah, exactly. So people are shocked. And then there was a concession given for those in derogation recently, John, which has added a few more units to the farm. So, there's opportunity there. I would say, John, the sooner we act.
That's the biggest thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Go now and then use your... Well, listen, you always be wary, but if you're on kind of good free draining ground, you will get your slurry out the end of September.
Yes, or from the 15th of September on. There's a great opportunity. And you're on long rotation as well, John.
Yeah, so you're not. Yeah, it's a good point, John. Yeah.
So you have to make use of what you have. You have to make use of the fertilizer in the next 2 or 3 weeks, John. That's Like, if you take the cost of, I just do standard numbers now, John. You might be insulted by this, but if I say 25 units cost you about a tenner, is that okay?
Yeah, then.
Right. But the cost for round bale, John, for the same, like if I do 25 kilos and get a very mediocre response of 10 kilos of grass for 25 kilos of fertilizer, which is very mediocre, that's 250 kilos, John. It's the same as a bale of silage. A bale of silage costs €40. A half bag of fertilizer or 10, your 20 something units, John, costs a tenner.
Yeah.
To me, it's a no-brainer.
100%, John. 100%, John. Very good advice, John. Thanks very much. Hopefully everyone will be able to get to those the remainder of the farm walks, and we'd encourage everyone to apply if they're interested for the Sustainable Grassland Farmer of the Year competition 2024.
Yeah, a bit like yourself, John. We'd like to have those people enter and win and celebrate for the year, John.
John, thanks very much.
All right, thank you, John.
Thanks to John Maher for giving us his time on a whistle-stop tour up and down the country across all the Grass 10 winners, and well done to all of them. Mind yourselves out there. Farm smart, farm safe. Hey, thanks for listening to the Sod Pod. We hope you enjoyed it. To find out more, head over to www.grasslandagro.ie or check out our social channels: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn and YouTube. That's all for this episode. See you next time.